Hello, I'm Neil Palmer, the Chief Executive of the National Centre of Excellence in Desalination Australia, a research organisation comprising 14 of Australian universities and 100 industry and organisational partners across the world. Did you know Australia once had the world's largest desalination plant? It was in 1895. The Mammoth Condenser at Coolgardie, Western Australia, was a state-of-the-art 6-stage multi-effect distillation plant. It produced 500 kilolitres per day from saline groundwater and operated until 1902 when replaced by the Golden Pipeline. Distillation was the only commercial form of desalination back then until reverse osmosis membranes were developed in the 1950s. The first spiral wound reverse osmosis membrane prototype was developed in 1964 by General Atomics in California. In 1968, just 4 years later, the first commercial reverse osmosis desalination plant was built at Cook on the Transcontinental Railway in South Australia. Now there are more than 600 large desalination plants across Australia, including 2 very large ones that supply half of Perth's drinking water. Australia has a great track record of innovation and early adoption of new technology. In 1914, 2 British researchers, Arden and Lockett in Manchester, published a paper describing the activated sludge sewage treatment process. It's considered by some to be the biggest advance in public health engineering in the 20th century. The first full-scale plant was built at Davyhulme in Manchester in 1926. The first Australian activated sludge plant was built at Glenelg just 6 years later in 1934 by the Engineering and Water Supply Department. It was built under the guidance of Mr. Harry Hodgson, the engineer for sewage treatment. Mr. Hodgson, a world expert, was a dynamic innovator for his entire career with ENWS. Do you know when the next major activated sludge plant was built in a metropolitan area in Australia? It wasn't until 1972 at the Luggage Point in Brisbane. South Australia's Engineering and Water Supply Department was considered Australia's leading water utility. Its water quality laboratories became world-renowned under the leadership of Professor Don Bursill. Don's influence in public health policy through the development of the Australian Drinking Water Guidelines influenced the world, including the United Nations World Health Organisation's drinking water standards. The Australian water quality laboratories here in South Australia continue to undertake world-leading water research. So what are the common issues in all of these stories? Firstly, Australia is innovative and adaptive. Secondly, we can hold our own in the international arena. And thirdly, we get the best results when we've got academia and industry working together. However, having worked in the research sector for the last 5 years, leading the National Centre of Excellence in Desalination, I've observed some barriers towards technological advancement. First point is, many at a policy level seem to think Australia's still a colony, or at best a branch office of some European or US entity. There are barriers between industry and academia. Academics are rewarded by the number of publications, not their ability to generate new ideas and work with industry. It's extremely difficult to move from industry to academia. Industry is suspicious of academia. In Australia, only 20% of PhDs go into industry. In the USA, this figure is 80%. So there is a challenge to universities to broaden the academic staff policy and allow more interchange between industry and academia. It benefits both parts of the equation. A challenge to industry is to engage more academics and PhDs and strengthen the links with our bright people in research institutions and go for those disruptive technologies that will make a difference and advance them to world leadership. And my challenge to policymakers is to recognise the value of investing in research and development. It's not an expense, it's an investment. One initiative that encourages all this is Australia's Cooperative Research Centre program. I've been working with Professor Don Bursill and a great team to bid for a future water CRC to unlock our economic potential by adapting and treating our huge impaired water resources for agriculture and industry. It's been both a challenge and a pleasure to work on a program that will further advance Australia's position in leadership of water technology. After all, people around the world would expect we who live in the driest state of the driest continent would have something to say about water management and water technology. I'll leave you with an image of a different adaptation in South Australia, which is disruptive. Growing tomatoes in the semi-desert near Port Augusta using solar desalinated seawater. If we are blessed by living in a country with lots of land and sunshine, surrounded by sea, with lots of impaired water inland, the possibilities are immense. The South Australian Water Policy Dialogue is a place where we can share some ideas and hopefully really kick along some innovations that are going to help make Australia be a world leader in water technology and water management.